So the one big concern among a lot of Star Wars fans right now is the release date of The Mandalorian Season 4, given that Disney and Lucasfilm are really in the middle of this writer's strike that's really impacting a lot of Star Wars projects out there. So Mando 4 is taking the hit as part of the writer's strike, and we're not going to be getting this thing until at least the middle point of the first quarter of 2025, so figure maybe around February to early March, give or take around that time frame. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the subject. Now, we know that Pedro Pascal has been a lot more direct with the fandom. He's been keeping the community in the loop and keeping them posted about what's going on with Jon and Dave and the future of Mando and Star Wars at large. And recently he had something very interesting to say about Kathleen Kennedy, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and really putting it out there that Kathleen Kennedy's time over at Lucasfilm on a creative scale is all done for, and that it's finished, and that it's all now up to Jon and Dave. So he had a couple of things to say about all of that. Now, where we ended with Mando Season 3, a lot of fans did not like the outcome of that season because Kathleen Kennedy was really pressuring Jon and Dave to do specific things with that one. She told them what to do, and though she was only involved with the script and not filming, that's enough to damage the overall season so far. So, moving on to the next big thing here, alright? Recently, Pedro Pascal has been answering many fan questions related to the future of the franchise and Mando specifically. He recently delivered something specific to the fandom by stating the following. One thing I can confirm is that by coming out of Season 3, many things are beginning to change. As I discussed earlier, that Jon and Dave didn't really have everything in their control for the third one, but they are on their own now with Season 4 and everything onwards, and they have a really good rough idea of what it's going to be about, and I can say that I am impressed, super impressed actually, that have 100% freedom on this thing and everything else onwards, so I think fans are going to see something different and yet satisfying, and some of the things that they told me about Season 4 is quite amazing. I think fans are going to lose it, in a good way of course. Now let me just stop here quick about what Pedro is saying, is that he is putting it out there officially that Jon and Dave are on their own. They have full creative freedom now, they have full creative abilities now to explore what they want to explore and how the story is going to be told. Now, even Jon Favreau has put this out there that Mando 4, it's really all about resetting the story. It's all about going back down to the basics, right? And you look at everything related to the franchise and everything related to the overall stance of Star Wars as a whole. Now, when you look at stuff like this, I am very optimistic about Jon and Dave. I'm very passionate about their projects. I think that they're going to do a fantastic job with Ahsoka, with Mando Season 4, and a whole lot of other things on the horizon. So there's a lot of great things to look forward to. There's a little, bad things happening over at Lucasfilm, specifically with Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte, but besides that, I think that Jon and Dave's material is worth our while, and it's definitely worth waiting for, and I have no problem, having to wait for Mando 4 until 2025 if it's going to turn out to be a big hit, and if it really is going to be something that's going to be just as good, or if not better than Season 2 of Mando. Moving on. He goes on to elaborate further. It's nice to see that they are going to be able to tell the story they want to tell with this one. I know Kathy had her vision with Season 3, and Jon and Dave didn't really agree with that vision, but they are getting a great team of creators together to help them out with this big story that they are putting together that's going to sort of restart the story. He's bringing the story of Din and Grogu back to its roots and evolving it from there with many surprises and how legends will play a big role. Now, separate from what Pedro stated here, this all alludes to how Kennedy has zero creative involvement in Mando 4, Ahsoka Season 1 and 2, and many other shows moving ahead that will also be announced at D23. Now, besides Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte, those two are in the power of Kathleen Kennedy, by the way, in case you guys have not been aware of that, obviously. it's one thing that a lot of fans are worried about, because those two specific shows have a lot of agenda-driven mindsets by Kathy, Leslie Headland, and John Watts. And when you look at something like this specifically, we know that the overall structure of The Mandalorian has suffered with the third season. A lot of fans came to dislike this one. A lot of fans felt like it didn't really have a focus or an aim, if you will, from having a story that would actually progress. So that's what John and Dave are focused on. They want to make sure that this is going to be something very much of great value, something that Pedro Pascal is going to be able to invest himself in, and he's going to be on set a whole lot more Mando 4 in comparison to Mando Season 3. So that's another thing to be, I think, a little bit more passionate about. But look, I mean, it's not a big surprise at the end of the day, too, because let's face it, when you're looking at these two projects, like Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte, Kathy herself even stated many times, dozens of times, that it's all about shifting away from George Lucas's vision, and that's something that I think a lot of fans are going to have a big issue with. Moving on. Now, Pedro's Din Djarin is also going to get a brand new treatment in the fourth season, as well as the return of Boba Fett. Sometimes Kathy, of course, refused to do many different things that John and Dave wanted to do, one of which had to do with the return of Boba Fett in Season 3. This was another thing. This was another big problem that John and Dave met with for the third season of Mando, is that they wanted to bring Boba Fett back. They wanted to explore, Morrison coming back for the role, and they were completely denied. They were not allowed to even talk to Morrison about the possibility of him getting that role or anything near like that. So look, I am looking forward to everything Star Wars, I will admit. Anything that's John and Dave, I look forward to. My enthusiasm is still there, make no mistake, but there are a lot of other things that I have a lack of enthusiasm over, and that is Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, and Indiana Jones 5. Those are the three big ones being led by Kathleen Kennedy that I think are really not going to meet fan expectations. So kind of keep that in mind, and don't let that necessarily derail your motivation or your momentum of excitement for what John and Dave are creating, because they have nothing to do with those projects at all. So look, I think Ahsoka is going to be something different, given that Kathleen Kennedy had no control over this one on a creative level, and John and Dave were able to do everything in their power to bring Legends back in all its glory. We know that Lars, of course, talked about his role as Thrawn, and that there's a lot of things going into that as well. So, look, there's a lot of great things to look forward to. I think Ahsoka is going to be one of them, and John and Dave are going to be able to prove themselves what they are able to do without Kathleen Kennedy interfering and limiting themselves to their best ability on their creative, mindsets. So, anyways, guys, I'm really intrigued to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.